Naked Shamanism. Welcome to With Insights Radio. I'm your host, Iggy Garcia. I will take you on a journey across the universe through shamanism, metaphysical, and holistic. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
All right. Ready to get started here. Perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'll wave to you as I can here. Sometimes I'm not able to do that because I get on a roll. So thank you for being here with me. So today we're going to talk about a little bit just about things about societal things. One of the biggest things that I am kind of want to talk about is rite of passage. This is something that I've been posting on my Facebook here. And good. Hi, everybody. Hi, Michelle. How are you? Karen. How are you? Juanita. Hi. Welcome to everybody who's popping in. Thank you for being here. This is episode 75 of Iggy Garcia Live. And we're doing a live stream here on Facebook. Hopefully you can stick with us or come back later and watch the rest of the show. So before we get started, I'm going to light a candle for our ancestors, give thanks to them for being with us and protecting us and watching over us and our spirit guides. Just want to honor and thank them. Mom and dad, grandma, grandpas, everybody who's been here with us. So it's always a pleasure to have you in the circle with us. So our ancestors are always with us, so they never really truly leave us. Hopefully they're not in the bathroom when taking a shower. Anyways. So I'm going to light a little bit of sage as well, just to kind of set the tone, set the mood. For those of you who want to stick around and be part of the show. I love sage. It's good stuff. White sage especially. I like all the sages because sometimes the white sage can be a little overbearing, but then I use a mix of different kind of herbal sages from the garden. They're a little more mellow. Wormwood's a little mellow when you burn it. Love this stuff. So what I'm going to do to get us going, to get us started off, is I'm going to do a little meditation. Just a little 5-minute, kind of get you tuned up, kind of get you relaxed a little bit. We're heading quickly and very fast into the fall. As you can see, the weather's changing in some parts of the country, especially here in Columbus, Ohio. We're kind of going straight to colder weather. I think it was 60 degrees last night, so which is kind of nice. I think it's about 60 now, so it's pretty cool. So just sit back and relax and just kind of soak in the message. You agree or disagree, that's fine. I'm not here really to ask anybody to come to my side. I'm just kind of talking about things that I find very different in our society. But before we get started on that topic, we're going to go into a little bit of the meditation, to something that is really relaxing. And really, I'm going to put a little music in the background. So just kind of relax, find a place where you're comfortable, some place where you can not be bothered for the next 5-10 minutes or so. It could be your bed, it could be a chair, and just kind of relax and just sit there. Take a moment to just gather yourself up there a little bit and just kind of feel the energies coming through. I know it's been a hard week, it's been a hard month, it's been a hard, last year for a lot of us. For many of us, we've gone through a lot of transition, especially myself, through loss of my mother, loss of my father. Excuse me. When you lose key players in your life, you start to see life a little bit different. You start to see life in a different light. You start to see life, completely in another way. Because now, for example, if you lose your family and you lose your parents or your loved ones, you step into different roles in your life. You step into different aspects of existence. You're still you, but you bring on the new energies that they've endowed you with. Good or bad, you may have to change some of them, but now you become the elder. You become the person who, regardless if they look up to you or not, or they're watching you from afar, you become that person. You become that symbol and that representation for a lot of people. So we're always in preparation, we're always moving forward, we're always getting to the place we want to be, and that's important. So just sit back and relax. Take a moment, take a deep breath. In through the nose. Hold it for a second. Release. In through the mouth. Out through the nose. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. Just want you to relax, and I want you to feel comfortable. Your hands to your side, and I want you to feel the energy, and I want you just to feel the relaxation of your space, your personal space, wherever that's at. If you're not at home, then create a personal space. I want you to take a moment and just reflect and think about just the last few days, what's been happening in your life. For some of us, it may have been a positive experience, and for some of us it may have been a character building experience. And that's kind of what life is about, experiences and being in the moment. And if you're comfortable with what your last 2 days were, then you're in a good place and you're moving forward into that. And if you found like the last few days were a little challenging, a little work, then you're moving forward as well into a better light, into a better place. Just feel the relaxation, your breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Just releasing, letting go. In your mind's eye, I just want you to look and project forward into the next moment. What you want to do, where you want to be, how you want to project, how you want to focus, how you want to create. Since we are the men and women of our ships, and we are in charge of how we allow things to bother us, things to move us, are we going to react or respond? These are the questions that we will ask ourselves going forward into the next moment. Some things have to be addressed, and some things have to we just discard them, let them go. So whatever you found important to you, you need to address it. And whatever you need to let go, this is the time to let go of that. And invite new energies into your life, new things that will open up opportunities and doors. Ask for that forgiveness. Ask to be forgiven. Ask for clarity. Ask for love. Ask for all the important things that you value. Ask for prayers for yourself, for your family, for your friends, for loved ones, for ones you've never met, for ones who you feel need it. Ask the universe to make things right, to put things in proper perspective. For we are human, we are flawed, and we will always come to these points where we will challenge ourselves or be challenged. And with that, take a deep breath one more time, in and out. And come back. And we're home. Very good, very good. That's awesome. Sometimes you just take 5 minutes, just take a few minutes just to relax. Sometimes it's very important to just ground ourselves. So many of us are caught up in the world, and the world takes over and just grabs us, and there's nothing we can do, and just totally challenges us. And I apologize, I'm coughing just a little bit of the allergies. I'll try to keep that down as much as possible. So I wanted to talk today a little bit about rite of passage. A rite of passage, I wrote down the definition, and it's pretty much, most of you know what a rite of passage is. A rite of passage is a ceremony or event marking an important stage in someone's life, especially birth, puberty, marriage, or death. Okay, so these are kind of things that we know. And for a lot of people, rites of passages are really, 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 really powerful things. Okay, so baptisms, for example, coming into puberty, bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, quinceañeras from some Latin cultures and different things. There's some other cultures that do things I'm not aware of, I'm not familiar with. But I guess I was here to talk about a little bit about rite of passage in the sense of when we get into the aspect of going into womanhood or manhood, we find that in this culture, especially in this Western culture, we don't have a lot of rite of passages, and then we are left to create our own rite of passages. We are here to move into these spaces to honor a young person coming into rite of passage. So in the Western culture, for example, and this might be a blanket statement. I might be totally wrong, but I just noticed from my perspective, my point of view, is in Western cultures we don't have a whole lot per se here in America, where unless you're culturally ingrained into some ethnic background, a Jewish background, a Greek background, a Latino background, but like I said, I could be wrong. And I noticed that a lot of people who I work with personally, one on one, don't have a rite of passage, or never been given the opportunity to have a rite of passage. And so, you know, going into manhood and becoming a man, we learn those from our friends, our fathers, if we have any, our grandfathers, any male figure that we have in our family. For me, I see a lot of rite of passage is, turning 21 and drinking. Actually, I was 18 at one time. For having your first beer, getting your driver's license is a rite of passage, for example, here in our culture, since we don't really truly honor one, because we're such a diverse bag of people. We are so diversely wide, separated, intrinsically combined, but yes, not uncombined. So what I find here is in America, our youth don't have a place or a goal sometimes to reach a certain place. Now, I do find that women generally work with women, and they create women social groups, and they create women's needs and women's I'm reaching for the word that I'm looking for. They create a culture within a culture when women, empower other women. I'm not saying that men don't do this, but we don't see it a lot in our culture here in the Western culture. We don't see it where men come into a rite of passage of being a man. So many times rite of passages are taught in indirect ways. Oh, men don't cry. Boo-hoo. Suck it up. Man up. Just words like that. We get thrown these words, and they imprint in our mind, and they create what a man looks like. Okay? And then there's also with women too, we imprint and we create these words that imprint on women as well. So I'm finding that our youth today don't really have some kind of rite of passage in the sense where they can go into adulthood and be prepared and be ready to be sent off into the world and be part of society and create and pay taxes and and consume and whatever. I think it's important for us to work on these kind of things because we come from all these different tribal backgrounds. So even if you're European descent, you have tribal background too from Europe. They've had their own tribes, they've had their own natives, they've had their own ways, and these things come across the sea, and they were indoctrinated, and they were pushed into the forum through religious and through societal things. So when we find a lot of men who are very frustrated, men who are very lost, and they're very fearful. And I have to say, men are very fearful. Men have, fears like any human being, a woman, a man, and men have to live up to this image of what a man looks like. Now, a man could be a man where he doesn't hug. A man could be a man where he doesn't, wave, or he doesn't say anything, or a man could be, well, I'm tough, I'm big, and I'm gonna whoop your ass. That could be a man. But there's all kinds of men. There's all kinds of versions of people. And so when we create these images of what a man looks like, men don't cry, boys don't cry. That's a good one. That's a big one. Well, I'm gonna tell you here. Last night I coached a soccer game. Okay, and we were playing and we were leading. It was 1-0. Then they tied us, and then we led 2-1, and then they came back and they tied us, and we were going 2-2 for the whole game. Okay, and I told the boys, time management. We have to make sure we keep the ball in our possession. Let's not give it up because we got the game because we scored a goal with like 2 minutes left in the game. We're up 3-2. They did their best. They worked hard to maintain the lead. And we made one little mistake. We made one little error. We made one little thing that just totally cost us, not cost us the game, it cost us the win. When the other team tied us with 5 seconds to go. Okay, so putting aside coaching or players, whatever, the other team went crazy and ecstatic because they had never been down. They were the number one team, and we're probably fourth in the league. And so here we are, little old Jones, playing against big old Wharton Christian, which are really huge players, and we're on the verge of beating them and ruining probably their undefeated season. And we kind of did in a sort of way, And they tie us, and then, man, we didn't lose, but it doesn't feel good. Several of my boys lost it. They started to bawl and cry. And they were just beside themselves because they worked so hard in that game because we've won a losing streak. We lost 3 in a row. And I changed the lineup and everything worked to some degree. And so these kids they were devastated by, being tied. And they're crying. And they're walking off the field. And, I talked to them. I said, you know what? Just relax, guys. It's good. We're good. We shook hands to the other team. They know that they know that they got away with a tie. It could have been a loss. And so they were almost a foot off because we have 7th and 8th, and they have strictly 8th. So most of our guys are little. So when we went to the flag where we talked and we huddled, and I said to them, guys, come here. And I talked to them. I said, hey. And I told the other kids, if you're not crying, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. If you're crying, let it out, man. Just cry. It's good to cry. You know what that tells me? That tells me that you cared. Not that the other guys weren't crying, that they didn't care. It's because these boys who actually released these tears, these real tears from their eyes, and they were bawling. I mean, it wasn't like crying. It was bawling. And tears. Other kids had like water in their eyes, and I was like, that's it, man. That's what it means to be a human being. That's what it means to be a person. That's what it means to be not man or woman. That's what it means to be passionate and in love with something that you care about so deeply that it means so much to you, that it means the world to you, that you would shed a tear for it because it meant that much to you. And I was crying too. And I was like, man, I was crying because I was proud of my boys because they stepped up to the plate when I challenged them. And I said, hey, we really need to take it. We are as good as anybody in this league. And I believe in you. And you know what I noticed? It only takes one person to believe in you. And so many of us don't have that in our lives. That one person that believes in us. A lot of us have people that believe in us, but not necessarily those aren't necessarily the ones that we want us to believe in. And then we have people in our lives who just beat us up. And they just whoop on us. And you know what? And then it just gets into our blood, into our cells, into our body. And it takes over. And it hurts us and it damages us. I could have been that coach. Said, well, why you guys crying? Suck it up, blah, blah, blah. Men don't cry. We come out. No, man. That was not going to happen on my watch. I wanted those young men to feel the pain, to feel the love, feel the passion. And not me stomp it out because my ego says, I'm bigger. We gotta be strong. We gotta be muscular. We gotta kick ass. That wasn't what it was about. Number one, it's a game for fun. It's a game for kids to enjoy. And not for me to run and vicariously live through them and vicariously use my ego to, embrace that, and stomp on them. These are children whose minds are brilliant minds who are ready to explore the world, are ready to explore themselves. They're ready to see things. They're our future, man. They are 20% of our population, but they are 100% of our future. And every time I coach a game, I think about this. This is a rite of passage. They join this team. They become part of something intrinsically combined, and they work together. And I tell them, I don't care if you guys don't get along outside of soccer or you don't like to talk to this person. But when you're on this team, we're going to work together. We're going to work together. We're going to do things together. We're going to do the best things we can as a team to work. Because, when you grow up, you're going to work with people you're not going to like. You're going to work with people who are just going to be bossy. You're going to work with people who are going to tell you how it is. You're going to work with people who are they just do whatever they want. They don't care what anybody else thinks. That's life. That happens. You're going to get people who just it's a menagerie of people. So I tell the kids, whatever you do here in practice will manifest itself outwardly onto the field. So how you practice is how you play. And so we practiced really hard the day before, and you know what? It showed. And I always tell the kids, man, and I always tell the kids, this is your first job. This is your first true job interview. This is your first true moment to produce for yourself, for your team, and the people around you. And to be part of something that is magically important, okay? Because so many of us go through life, okay? And this is what we're taught. This is what we're taught for a lot of people. You get a job at McDonald's, you get a job at Walmart, whatever. You get a job it's not a super paying job. And then you scoot through that job and you just fly through that job because it's not important, because you're waiting for the good job. But then you get to the good job and you never advance, you never promote forward because you never did your job correctly when you were in the crappy job, because you were just trying to scoot by. The thing is, if you do your job right, correctly, in the moment where you're there and producing to some degree for your own pride, not for the pride necessarily for the company or whatever, but you do for you, then you will move into the next existence of whatever you're doing with a better attitude. Yeah, and I know some jobs are shitty, okay? But how you perform in those jobs is also how you're going to perform in the next one. You're not going to change. We're creatures of habit. We're creatures that do things over and over, and then when we get frustrated when things trigger us, we go right back to the trigger point, and that pushes us. It doesn't matter if you're getting $30,000 a year or $15,000 a year, okay? There is always going to be somebody or something that triggers you. Okay, so these are things that we learn from people who have been before us. Some of us have gone to college, some of us haven't gone to college, I don't condone or endorse anything per se. If you want to go to school, go to school. You don't want to go to school, don't go to school. But be productive. Be part of society. Embrace it, help it, work it. So, rite of passages. In many cultures, they have different types of rites of passages into puberty. Once you hit puberty, you move into a rite of passage to become an adult. Scientifically, they've proven that by the age of 8, most of us have already learned how to parent ourselves. So think about it. You have an 8-year-old mentality of how to parent yourself by the wisdom and the knowledge of the people who are raising you, or people who have been entrusted to raise you. Let that sink in for a minute. Think about that. If you're 8 years old, okay, you're 8 years old, all right, and your role models or your teachers were your parents or your grandma and grandpa, you're going to have a lot of that information moving right along that little train of life. Now, I'm hoping that most of you are able to discern from what was good, what was wrong, what does help, what doesn't help, but most of us don't. I think it's important to understand that, that we do the best we can in the moments we are given, but when we come from an 8-year-old mentality into a 22-year-old mentality or an 18-year-old mentality or a 25-year-old mentality, we carry that with us. So there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of relationship issues because you got these people who are adults who are still children, because we are children. And I think we forget that we are children, even though we have grown. We are children with much more experience, much more responsibility. Our bodies physically change, our mentality changes, our chemistry changes, but we carry the youthfulness of ourselves through time. Some of us use it childlike, and some of us use it childish. Now, the ones who move through life with a childlike emotion, then, well, they have certain ways and certain things happen to them. And the ones who are childish have their things that happen to them. We forget to play. We forget to laugh. We forget to do things that we used to do as a kid. And you know what? Maybe your childhood sucked. Maybe as a child you had to work, or you were abused, or you were beaten. But you know what? As an adult, as you grow up, you have the chance and you have the ability to help heal yourself, help heal those moments where you're stuck. So there really is no excuse to be stuck unless you truly want to be stuck, and unless you're truly it's so ingrained in you that you can't move it out. So these rites of passage, we don't ever learn how to be adults because no one ever really taught the people before us how to be adults. And if they don't have rites of passage, most likely you won't have rites of passage. So what would be a rite of passage for somebody a man who's going to go, who is not Jewish, who's not Greek, who's not Hispanic, who's not of African descent, or any type of, ethnicity in the sense of maybe just white Caucasian male. What is their rite of passage? I'm not sure because the ones that I've worked with, I've created rites of passage for their families through drumming, through circles, through offering gifts and stuff. But these are very rare cases where people have asked me to do this. I don't see it a lot, and I don't see it too much, especially with, inner city children, groups. Yeah, you turn 18 and you're an adult, that's a rite of passage too. But it's not a rite of passage with anything, with any substance with it. So like I said, I don't know what it's going to be. And I think a lot of our problems with men are that we have this stigma that men have to be a certain way, that men have to be strong, that men have to represent, that men are just a man's man, we teach our kids that they're not able to show their emotions or show their expression. Even when kids get in a fight, I don't know, you probably remember this. Oh, only girls pull hair. When you're in survival mode, you're going to do whatever you can, okay, to protect yourself. So these are just little things and little words that you hear and little things that happen. So rite of passage is a super thing that sometimes we overlook here in this culture. And I think when we overlook it, we don't help the situation. So how do we help men become men? What does it mean to be a man? What does that mean? And it's not what you do. It's not, oh, yeah, well, I have a job and I help my family and, I pay the bills. That's not a man. That's just a person working. What makes a woman a woman? Because she expresses herself in a sensual way, because she expresses herself in a manner that is not like a man. No, it's just we're human beings. We're allowed to express ourselves in ways that are healthy, with healthy limits and boundaries. People create their own rituals, and they will find people who create with them. And rite of passage actually doesn't have to be in the moment per se at child. A rite of passage can happen when you're an adult at 50, 60, 80, 20, 30. It's never too late to create a rite of passage. It's never too late to create that environment. And you will find the right people that you will resonate with and the right people who will follow that and be part of that. Not everybody's on board with everything that everybody does, and I understand that, and that's okay. I don't expect that. I don't jump on everything that everybody's doing to create a rite of passage for me. That's a rite of passage for you, and that works for you. Maybe it's not a rite of passage for me. We're creating rite of passages all the time. But so how do we help our children create rites of passage? What do you do? Anybody can write here and type and let me know, because I'm curious what you do, because I'm curious, how do you indoctrinate your child into adulthood? What do you teach them? Just teaching them the things that you learn, is that sufficiently enough to let them know that, they're getting ready to do something that is completely different from what they were doing? A child should be allowed to be a child while they're a child, and while we set the standard of what a child means. A teenager should be allowed to do a teenager as they are teenagers without being challenged, but also within restriction and also with molding and grooming and guidance too, because, as a teenager, I was a teenager, you were a teenager, some of us were kind of crazy, and some of us were kind of wild, and some of us were pretty chill and pretty nice and relaxed, and some of us, after we came out of teenage, the teens, we became crazy young adults, and then some of us went the other way, and we became chill and relaxed, whatever. So, I'm not sure. Rite of passage is something that we can create at home. What will you create at home? How would you tell your 15-year-old, 16-year-old, you know what, now you're getting ready to step into manhood or womanhood, and you're getting ready to express and explore things that you have, never seen before. I don't even know if it's about teaching them financial things, how to write a checkbook, how to open up a bank account, what it means to create the value of work. I'm not sure. Everybody's different. But I do believe that we create a ceremony or an event marking that special moment in someone's life and letting them know that we're ready to step into a new existence. You're ready to step into something that's very powerful. And with great power comes great responsibility. That responsibility is how we're going to integrate and how we're going to be part of this world. There's no reason why everybody in this world can't succeed. There's no reason why not everybody can. But there are conditions and things that happen to us that create those blocks. Now, those blocks that we create, we're able to move through them, or sometimes we can't. I'm a true believer that everybody can heal, okay, if they're ready to heal. I can't tell you when to heal because all healing is self-healing. So when you're ready to move into that space where you think that you need change in your life and you think you're ready to go, because you can have change within the environment you're in. Don't think that you don't. You can't, because you can. You can stay in the environment you're in, the environment you don't feel as comfortable, and create better things in that. Don't get stuck in the thing that you totally have to destroy and wipe out this existence that you're in, because if you don't destroy it, then you don't have anything. You can't go forward. That's not true. You can create an environment within the environment, okay? And a lot of people call that imagination. How many children who are in a messed up, okay, situation, okay? How many of these kids create a world for them to escape to? Okay, so it's a change, because they're just dying to leave. They're dying to get out of the situation they're in. But you know what? Once they're out of that situation, they don't even know what to do. So they carry that energy along with them constantly through time, until somebody steps in and says, "Hey, how can we help you?" Or until you say, "Hey, how can I help myself?" Sometimes we don't see ourselves as being helpless. Sometimes we don't see ourselves as being weak. But we do, from time to time, wonder why. And the majority of the time, why we don't have rites of passages in our culture, in this culture, is because we didn't have one before. And they didn't have one before. And if they did have one before, it was lost through time, lost through transition, lost by one generation. One generation can change everything for the next generation. One group of people can change it all. So you, as the group in front of me watching, can create a whole new environment for the next generation of people who you are completely in contact with. Your children, your nieces, your nephews, your aunts, your uncles, anything. We can do anything when we put our mind to it. We can create a brand new world if we truly want to create it. And the reason we don't do it is because we're so stuck. And we sometimes we like where we're at too. So don't think that it's just one way. Sometimes we like what we have. We like what is there. So we continue creating it upon, we add to it our little things. Well, my dad used to do this for years. My mom used to do it. It's tradition. We have to keep it going, blah, 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 And, some people don't like those traditions. Some people don't want those traditions. But, I believe if you don't like the tradition, then keep it within the framework of your personal family versus everybody. Because so many families, and I see this a lot, have a tradition that mom and dad created, a rite of passage. Thanksgiving, we feed the homeless. All right. And then the next group comes and goes, well, I don't want to feed the homeless. I don't want to. I just want to have Thanksgiving with my family. And then they kill it for everybody because they don't want to come. And then the next family doesn't. Next year, no one wants to come. And then next thing you know, you find the parents going, man, what happened to my tradition? Because remember, they also create their own traditions or destroy the traditions that they have. You've seen it. I've seen it. Raise your hands because you've seen in your own personal families how some people don't want to do certain things that other family members want to do. Because that's human nature. Sometimes we don't want to carry on the legacy of what another family member carries. For example, the family business that we have, the legacy has changed. It's there. We've been given an opportunity to create something new within the legacy that was created before us. The legacy that was left by my parents is now different. It is now being managed, ran completely the opposite of what my dad would have ever raised. But that was my dad. He had his own way. And now the siblings, in order for not to be able to get too close, we're all owners. But now we've hired outsourced people, outsourced work, and have everything running that way. And you know what? Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's something that's good. Maybe it's something that's important. Maybe it's something of value. But, create rites of passages. And they don't have to be extravagant. They don't have to be anything that's off the top. A rite of passage can just be a hug and a kiss and just say, hey, you know what? I love you. And just go. Rite of passage doesn't have to be fancy. Rite of passage can be pretty cool. Now, last week I went to a combination bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah for my friends who had it for their children. I'd never gone to one, and it was probably one of the most amazing things I ever saw or experienced or was part of, because that's not my culture. That's not where I come from. That's not my background. That's not my religion. That's not my belief system. But it's theirs, and the way they value it. I watched the community that gathered around these children, and the mother and the grandparents and the father, and how they came together, and how they sang, and how they read, from the Torah, and how they had to learn Hebrew, and how they had to recite it, without punctuations or just straight through. And how they keep their culture going, they keep their system going, and you know they keep creating. And Native Americans do this too. So do a lot of Greek backgrounds, and so do a lot of Latino families. But in the religious aspect, to watch this event happening was really cool, because when we sang, there was beautiful singing. I sang along, even though I didn't know the words, but I figured I could make it sound kind of close. And it just opened my heart. And I was so touched by how the community, everybody knew everybody. It wasn't like anybody was a stranger, out of place. Maybe I didn't know a lot of people, but it was just really beautiful to watch these two children stepping into adulthood, into their puberty, into their creation. And their family created a foundation. This is what I'm talking about. We create rites of passage because we create family. We create a way to do that. I'm not saying that they're perfect scenarios, but in this particular sense, I watched these two children step into adulthood, step into responsibility, step into carrying a lineage that they believe in, to share with their children in the future, to share with their families and friends. And one of the children, they have to do these voluntary things. She would actually write these little notes, okay? And she just pastes them randomly on cars. It says, "I love you, you're beautiful, here's your free hug." She wrote all these little things, and that was part. No one knew where it came from. So if you got one, I know where it came from. But I thought that was really cool. I was like, man, that's something I would do. And so, that was one of her volunteer things. The other thing, she volunteered in like an animal shelter. And then the boy, he was a hockey player, so he actually volunteered helping with like a peewee squad with soccer. And so I thought it was really cool. They're also going to teach them how to give back to your community. So this is a type of rite of passage. This is something where this is how this particular group of people, culture, belief, background, approaches the world, approaches life, gives thanks. And they're not asking anybody to judge them. They're not asking anybody to say they're right or wrong, because they don't really, I don't want to say they don't care. I think it's not important, because those who believe and those who are part of them will always do it that way. So I thought it was amazing. It was beautiful. And then I've also seen quinceañeras where, my friend's daughter's 15, they turn 15, the dress, the party, the cake, all that cool stuff. But I also believe that children should also have the right to say, hey, you know what, maybe I don't want to be part of this. Maybe that's where the rub is. Maybe we push too much with rite of passage. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it's an individual by individual scenario. And the reason I brought this topic up is because sometimes men and women are in our own little camps. And sometimes we find our way here in the middle. But I find that men usually are down here and women are usually up here, which is good. But I find that men sometimes don't have that connection in what it means to be a man. Hanging out with men and watching football and drinking beer, that's a connection, but that I'm talking about something more spiritual or something more deeper. Is football deep spiritual? I don't know, maybe. But I mean, like, really having a deep core, heart to heart. And I'm not talking religiously. I'm not talking about the God aspect. I'm talking about the spiritual aspect of what it means to be a man to a man. What it means for us to be men. Not the part that says, well, we have to protect and we have to. No, I'm talking about what it means to be, let your guard down and just talk about stuff. Let your guard down, just release and let go. That's what I'm talking about. That's the part that I don't see a lot of. And you know what? And I've had kind of like these retreats where men work together and stuff. And it's really interesting. Sometimes we open up and sometimes we don't. But just the sheer fact that they showed up, that's important. That's powerful. But I do see a lot of my female friends who do have like these women's camps, these women retreats, and they do the things that goddesses do, you know, whatever they do. They express, they feel their emotions, whatever. But I wish that, you know, and I hope that men find their way, that they're able to, they're allowed to cry. They're allowed to express their feelings and emotions in a healthy way, in a way that doesn't hurt another person, in a way that doesn't necessarily hurt themselves. And sometimes I don't think we are able to. I'll be the first person to tell you I was never able to express myself in the way that I thought was positive. To much later in life, I really had to suck it up. I really had to hear the voices the things I didn't want to hear. You're nothing without me. You can't do it. Why are you stupid? I'm just like everybody else. I've heard it all. I've got it. My parents weren't perfect. My parents were doing the best they could, and you know what? And when I hear them say the things they said to me, then I didn't know where it was coming from because I had no clue what was happening to begin with. But later in life, I understand that they weren't taught in a foundational way that was positive or loving sometimes. That they were, because their families weren't taught, because they also had to show men and women have their place. And the day we understand that we're just we all bleed the same way. We all go to the bathroom the same way. We all have one heart. Most of us have two lungs. Most of us have two kidneys. Most of us poop out the back, pee out the front. Most of us breathe through the nose or the mouth. Most of us have two eyes. Most of us have two ears. We're human beings. We're human doings, or whatever you want to call us. We're alive. To put us in these camps and separate us because we look different or we're genetically built different, I don't know if that helps anybody. I'm a big proponent. If you're qualified, you should get paid as equal as anybody. There should be no. If a woman is qualified over a man or whatever, she should be paid as much as a man, vice versa. Either way, that's where we still have a lot of growing to do in this country, especially. I can't speak for any other country, but in this country, we have a lot of growing to do. And and I believe the rite of passages of marriage, death, those come, those go. We have the rite of passage of baptism. We have the rite of passage of being born into this time, in this moment in time. Every person who walks this earth has the opportunity to change the world by changing their world, and by that it helps change the other people's lives as well in a positive light. There are 1,000 generations that have worked hard to get you and me to this moment in time, this place right now, listening on Facebook. There's been 1,000 generations working to create Facebook, create computers, create clothing, hats, beads, you name it. There were someone's ideas, their dreams, their imaginations. Now think about all the people who died with their dreams and their imaginations and their creations, and it took them to the grave, never to be ever seen, because someone didn't encourage, didn't motivate, didn't believe in themselves to believe in them. So you have a grand opportunity, and not just your kids, other people's kids, other adults, other human beings. Every moment we have the opportunity to empower another human being as much as we have the ability to destroy them. So ask yourself, are you empowering? Are you being disempowered? Do you disempower? What fears hold you back from helping others or helping yourself help yourself? because we're all there. We all have it. We all have this fear. We all have this stuff because all of us have had something that went wrong in our life at some point or another. And all of us have the opportunity to say, I'm going to step out of it and I'm going to become better. I'm not going to let that control me. But a lot of us won't do the work. A lot of us don't care. A lot of us are just like, who cares? I'm fine where I'm at. Okay, you're fine where you're at. A lot of us are searching, and the ones who are searching, the ones who need the help, the ones who want the help, it's there. Just got to look for it, got to do it. And sometimes you have to be the one that initiates and creates it. You might be the person that says, okay, we're going to do this because nobody else is doing it. And that's how things happen. That's how movements begin. That's how beautiful things evolve, because somebody took the time and someone took the courage to just step out of their own comfort zone, step out of their own way, and say, we're going to do this. And if I'm the only one and only one person shows up, then I've saved one person's life, then that's it. And that life is yours and the person sitting across from you. So, rites of passages. It could be a vague thing. It could be a very majestic thing. It's really up to you. But I know one thing is being human and allowing your emotions to feel and express themselves are super important within the boundaries of healthy limits and boundaries, because we don't want to hurt people or ourselves in the process of that. If your little rec teen cries because they lost their game, let them cry. Just let them go. Say, hey, we got another game coming. Let's play. Let's do life a little different. Let's do life a little bit in a way that is more empowering for ourselves, more empowering for the person that we know, the people next to us, people in front of us, people behind us. Some people are going to have to cut out. Some people are just going to have to let go and release and not have anything to do with them, because some people just won't change, and you're not obligated to change them. You're obligated to make sure that you're okay. Make sure that it's healthy for you, because if it's not, it's on you if you stick around and have to deal with that. Okay? All right, guys, I think I covered a lot of points, and hopefully I made some sense. Sometimes I listen and I'm going, man, that's pretty powerful. Sometimes I'm going, wow, what was that? I don't know about. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys. I really thank you for tuning in. And if you have anything in the comments you want to say, you want to share, please do so. Go out, make the difference in your life. If you want to shed a tear, shed a tear. If you want to laugh, you want to laugh. If you want to play, you want to play. If you want to dance, dance. If you want to drum, drum. If you want to go sailing or go fishing, then do it. Do something you haven't done in a long time, or do something you've not done ever, and you'll find out if you like it or not. So just go out and be you. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. And I'll be back here shortly on another episode of Iggy Garcia Live. And 75 episodes on this particular show is a big accomplishment too. So I'm proud of myself. Thanks, Iggy. Good job. Work. People are listening. That's important. And I'm learning from you too, because a lot of you I work with, a lot of you are very good teachers for me. All right. Peace and love, guys. Have a great weekend. There is a drum circle at the Reiki Center this Saturday. What is it? September 6th? Yeah, September 6th. No, 7th. September 7th. I'm losing my time here. At 7 p.m. So if those of you who want to come out and drum with the group, we're going to be there. We're going to have fun. It's a good healing moment. It's a good place to release and let go. It's a good place to express yourself and things. And then October 6th, we have Ash Cave coming up. So that's a really cool one too as well. All right, guys. Take care. Namaste. Irisikwi. Matakuyasin. Oho. All is above. All is below. God bless. May the universe bless you. And I will see each other soon. It's good to be here, as always, with you. And I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.